And even then, the sale that has to turn it up in the city. I don't know what the system goes on with it. I hit my button, and I look to my right corner here. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, it does happen.
Good evening, Washington Courthouse. It is 7:30 p.m. on September 11th, 2024. Time for our first regular meeting of the month. At this time, Mr. Hawk will offer an invocation, and Mr. Chrisman will lead us in the pledge. Abel, please stand.
Heavenly Father, I thank you for the privilege that I have of serving in this group. I thank you for the privilege of living in this town and for all the blessings that we enjoy by living here. I pray, Father, that you would help us as we deliberate tonight, that our decisions would be a matter of loving each of the citizens and trying to do the best that we can for our fellow citizens here in our town. And I thank you for creating us and giving us what we have. And I ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Before I have roll call, I got a message from Mrs. Call that her 90-year-old grandfather is in ICU. And she thought she needed to be there this evening. That's why she's not here. So I would hope that we could excuse her. But anyway, roll call, Kelly.
Okay. Blair,
Here.
Call, Chrisman,
Here.
Hawk,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
Lynch.
Here.
Make a motion to excuse Mrs. Call.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. We have the minutes from August 28th, 2024. I saw one thing. I think Mr. Blair led the invocation, not Mr. Chrisman. But other than that, did anybody see anything else?
I didn't see that, but all right.
Thank you.
I'll move that we accepted the minutes as, with that change as printed. Second.
Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Any communication, Mr. Denny?
None.
To have two committee reports. First is Economic Strategies and Cooperation. Mr. Schultz, I think you headed that up.
Yeah, I think.
You wanna read
Yeah,
that?
white, whatever color it
Do
is.
you like that pink? Okay. Or whatever that is.
Right. All right, we'll try this. The Economic Strategies Corporation Committee met in City Council Chambers, 105 North Main Street on Wednesday, August the 28th, 2024 at 5 p.m. Mr. Steve Schultz presided, and those in attendance were Mr. Jim Chrisman, council member, Mr. Ted Hawk, council member, Mrs. Sylvia Call, council member, Mr. Jim Blair, council member, Mr. Gail Lynch, council chairperson, Mrs. Chelsea Baker, Economic Development Director, Mr. Jody Langley, Assistant Fire Chief, Mr. Mark Pitstick, City Attorney, and Mr. Joseph Denon, City Manager. Number one, the committee reviewed progress with the industrial development. The administration advised the Committee of Open Projects. Number two, the committee benefited from an update of the DR&E meetings. Number three, the committee benefited from a review regarding downtown businesses. Number four, the committee noted the status of various development projects within the downtown area. Number five, the committee reviewed progress with commercial development. Mrs. Baker noted potential interest at the Washington Center. The administration noted development interest, well, then there was near Home Depot. Someone crossed something out there. Number seven, the administration advised the committee of positive work with small nations. Mrs. noted discussions continue with small nation organization. Number 8, the administration noted recent community projects and events such as the Farm to Fork event and the Art on the Square event. Number 9, Mrs. Baker advised of upcoming events such as the new Medina Hospital kickoff, the Chamber golf outing, and the Chamber annual meeting. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Steve Schultz, Vice Chairperson, Economic Strategies and Corporation Committee, and Mrs. Kelly Ford, Recording Secretary.
Thank you. Any questions about that report? Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve it as read. Second.
Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Next, we have the Finance and Personnel Committee. It's not quite as bright a pink.
Oh my gosh, this, I'm blinding right
Mr.
I'm taking sunglasses.
Chrisman,
there. I got spots in my eyes.
Mr. Chrisman, that's yours if you want to go ahead.
Thank you. The Finance and Personnel Committee met in the City Council chambers of 105 North Main Street on Wednesday, August 28, 2024 at 6 p.m. Mr. Jim Chrisman presided, and those in attendance were Mr. Steve Schultz, council member, Mr. Jim Blair, council member, Sylvia Call, council member, Mr. Ted Hawk, council member, Mr. Dale Lynch, council chairperson, Mr. Ron Sockman, finance director, Mr. Jody Langley, assistant fire chief, Mr. Mark Pitstick, city attorney, Mr. Joseph Denon, city manager. Number 1, the committee benefited from a report of the statement of cash for the month ending July 31st, 2024. The committee benefited from a report on investments of the City of Washington Courthouse. The committee recommended that legislation be brought to council to enter into a lease/finance agreement with Johnson Emergency Vehicle Solutions. The committee recommended legislation be brought to council to enter an agreement with Fayette County authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them for the 2024 year to the county auditor. The committee recommended a license agreement with the Board of Education of the Washington City School District for the use of the property located at 100 Circle Avenue. The committee benefited from a review of the health care cost summary report. The committee benefited from a review of the UMR PACE plan activity and checkpoint evaluation, that's for you, Ted, report. The administration noted that discussions had begun regarding the 2025 rates. The administration reported that a grievance from the police department had been resolved. The administration explained an option for opportunities to use residential TIF funding with upcoming development. The committee recommended the planning proceed. The committee benefited from a review of the fireworks surveys received as of the meeting dates. The committee reviewed the proposed firework legislation. The committee directed that work on the ordinance proceed further, the goal being a simple solution and more complex alternative. Respectfully submitted, Jim Chrisman, chairperson, Mrs. Kelly Ford, recording secretary. She actually runs this whole thing, I just did this. Thank you, Kelly.
Any changes, questions? If not, does someone want to make a motion to accept?
I'll move that we accept it as read.
Second.
Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Mr. Denon, you are up to bat. sir.
Thank you. I would like to thank all the people that participated in the 9/11 ceremony this morning at the gazebo and the courthouse lawn. In particular, I would like to thank the Fayette County Honor Guard. They are incredibly dutiful to those commitments. And would like to thank Melissa Havens, the EMA director. She puts it together every year, and it was very nice and a worthy and appropriate memorialization. New legislation I wanted to point out, that is certifying of property tax levies to the county. The city has none. we have no voted property tax levy. You do benefit from some inside millage. But I wanted to point that out in lieu of, some of the distress that is going on concerning potential increases in values that that people are a little bit worried about. We actually have no voted property tax levies. Market, paving work has begun to slow down, but you will see full depth repair on Market. I'm not going to regurgitate everything that we just talked about in committee, because you have a couple people who want to talk to you tonight. But you'll see that type of activity. And of course, you got Scarecrow Festival around the corner, so that is folks like Kelly. That is a tremendous amount of effort, but that will also include the police department, the service department, and to an extent the fire department. They all pull together to work with citizens and various organizations in the community to make that a reality, and that is it's a tremendous amount of work. But we're very pleased that people enjoy that and that they enjoy downtown Washington Courthouse. Della gave me a piece of paper, and Mr. Muncie is with us. Mr. Muncie, if it's okay with the chairperson, do you want to go ahead and explain what Della gave me?
Just state your name.
My name is Derek Muncie. I'm an attorney for Della Kestke, and for those living on Farmington Lane and then back in Quail Run. So this, just to give you some background, about a month or two ago, we successfully appealed to the BZA a challenge to a proposed development that sits in, I'll just go ahead and if it's all right with you all, I just print out a map. It's just the zoning map. You can see it distinctively. 2, 3. All right. But the subject property is up in the green, we'll call it quadrangle. At the end of Farmington Lane, that's zoned R3, and the long and short of our appeal was that it was not that the plans proposed were not permitted under the zoning code because that lot does not contain enough frontage on Farmington Lane, which could be the only possible measurement of frontage, as the R3 zone requires 80 feet of frontage. At best, there's somewhere between 60 and 70 feet of frontage on that lot. We provided a couple options, or at least ideas, at that meeting, which included some more discussion with the residents of Farmington Lane of something that we could get behind. The primary concern, and a concern that should be addressed by the frontage issue, is the proposed density. A few hundred units back in that, or 70 units back in that R3 district there. It's just too much for Farmington Lane, a less than 60-foot drive. So as I understand it, what has been proposed is the same exact plan with a short 80-foot extension of Farmington Lane back into that R3 district, which is my understanding would also require city council approval to accept that right-of-way extension. But it doesn't address the concerns of the folks who sit behind me, the folks that I represent. It's my understanding that much more were at the Planning Commission meeting last week than are here with us tonight. So this is an issue of concern for a lot of people, a lot of residents here. So first, I practice in this area. It's 50% of my practice. There's planning, zoning, and construction, property disputes, driveway disputes. I come across zoning regulations a lot, and what I see in a lot of small towns are that growth is coming, whether we like it or not, and we need smart growth. So an idea that a tool that has been proposed for a lot of towns is to impose a moratorium on certain proposals or developments to allow the city to take a look at the zoning code and try to find these, what I would call this R3 quadrant, a non-conforming lot, to see if we can find those and eliminate them so that we don't have this problem. So you don't have to call guys like me to come in here and squabble over every proposal that we have, or to address maybe outdated or ineffective frontage concern or frontage requirements or lot square footage requirements, just to review the zoning ordinances. So that's the first proposal that we have, and I don't know if you have a copy of it. I have a few. The specific language that I'm asking for is an ordinance imposing a moratorium for a period of 90 days on the approval of any multifamily housing developments throughout the city of Washington Courthouse, specifically to review and eliminate or modify some of these outdated or ineffective or inapplicable provisions of the existing zoning ordinance. So that's what my clients have asked me to put together. You know, part of this request is emergent because an application has been submitted. Fortunately, the Planning Commission tabled that application to allow us to get together and make some arguments. Obviously, there's some dispute about the notice that was given. You know, I'm sitting with this for just a few days. I was out of the country when I got the call, so I've done everything I can to get up to speed once again to try to address the concern for these citizens here. So 90 days should be sufficient for the city to sit down and take a look and try to find these non-conforming lots on the map. I'm certain that it's not the only lot that's non-conforming, and what that means, it's a term of art for guys like me to say that the way that this chunk of property is zoned, it's a lemon. There's no way that it could ever be used for any R3 purpose because it doesn't have R3 frontage. So unfortunately, the property owner at this point in time, is holding a property that requires a variance, a modification of some kind in order to be economically viable. And you know, there was plenty of discussion at the BZA hearing as to how this lot becomes non-conforming. I don't really care. It doesn't affect me and it doesn't affect my clients, and I feel terrible for the property owner because he bought a lemon. Who's responsible and why, I'm not sure, but what we can do now is try to come up with a plan to address this lemon so that it's economically viable for the property owner without creating an issue for the existing properties already on Farmington Lane and in Quail Run. So that's the first proposed ordinance. A second proposed ordinance, or proposed, I don't know if the proper terminology is motion or resolution. I think it's a resolution. It might be a motion. There's three ways to request a zoning modification. The most common, I would assume, is where the property owner or a property owner in the district files an application with the city. Planning Commission hears that application, and based on their recommendation, City Council moves on that recommendation. The second, and probably second most likely that you hear, is one that's raised sua sponte by the Planning Commission, meaning the Planning Commission can raise this motion on their own and send it up to City Council. What I would assume is probably the least likely is what we're asking for here today, which is for City Council on their own to refer this matter to the Planning Commission for a zoning change of its parcel ID 215018003002001, which is that green quadrangle we pointed to earlier, from zoning district R3, which is strictly multifamily housing requiring 80-foot frontage, to either R1B or in the alternative R2. And we had a long discussion today about what specific districts we thought this would be appropriate for. We're not asking for R1A, which is the largest residential zoning district, because we recognize that you know, we don't need 15,000 square foot lots everywhere, and that we need some diversity of housing. We chose the R1B because that addresses some of those concerns that, you know, maybe we don't need a 15,000 square foot lot. We can use a 10,000 square foot lot, put a few more houses back there, let the property owner make a little more money than what he would if we were coming in here demanding the largest lot possible. In the alternative, we chose to designate it as R2, specifically because there are existing R2 properties right next door, immediately adjacent, immediately behind for lack of better terms, the complaining citizen's house is immediately in front of this R2 district. And we've discussed, hey, you know, worst case scenario, that's what we get. You know, either 4 units or 2 units per structure. It seems that, you know, we won't have this massive influx of cars on Farmington Lane, something that the residents and the street itself can tolerate. Either way, it would require just planning ahead. Either way, it's likely going to require some extension of the right-of-way, just to make it feasible in subdivision plan. But that's a lot smarter than accepting whatever error we made in the past and making this R3 and hamstringing the residents into that decision without further discussion, without further choice or option. You know, anytime it's I'm generally a property rights absolutist, which means you buy the property, you get what you get. Your neighbors have to deal with it too. But there's some instances in which the rights and safety of the neighbors are inhibited or damaged by a neighboring property owner's development or use of their land. And in this case, we believe that the safety of those on Farmington Lane, that the value of the properties on Farmington Lane are going to decrease if if an R3 use is designated for this property. And the solution shouldn't be some easy fix of extending the right-of-way, bubbling it out to get 80 feet. It should be some collaborative effort with the neighbors who have been there for years, who have established value, who show up to the meetings. That's our request. So those 2 resolutions we've asked for. It's my understanding that you guys can't suspend the 3 reading rule like any normal city council since we're chartered, but I think we can get emergency review of this and perhaps a special meeting. That we are making that request because the Planning Commission, I believe, only gave us till the 24th before they hear this again. Obviously, no guarantee either way at that phase as well. I'll be there. We'll be making similar arguments, but this is a way that I think council can be responsive to the residents who are expressing concern over this issue.
So just to be clear, you won at the zoning board. We found out that the lot is a non-conforming lot, meaning that as it is zoned now, literally no one could properly submit any plan. Council must do something if someone is going to develop on this land. And you have proposals for how council could act, which would make the residents of Farmington Lane happy and could make Mr. Bishop some money.
Yeah, I think that's almost 100% accurate. He could submit a variance. That's not what's been done here, and I'm not sure why. At least that's my understanding. He hasn't submitted a variance. He could submit a PUD. Don't quote me on it. I haven't read your guys' entire zoning code, but I'm sure you guys have planned development districts. He can do it that way as well, and that's not what happened. It seems that what has happened now is the quickest and easiest way to throw it back in front of the administration here to have a similar knee-jerk reaction that we were looking for the last time. What we're asking for is council to give us the opportunity through these resolutions to have a discussion with the property owner, and not just this property owner, but others in the area, to give us a vehicle to start that conversation and for that conversation to mean something, instead of just granting a variance, just making up a plan that is easy and doesn't involve the neighbors, something that's a little more collaborative. But this is a vehicle that will allow council to not just give us what we want, but make this property conforming to the zoning code. So right now it's non-conforming. So to your point, yes, right now you can't submit an R3 use for this property without a variance, in my opinion. The argument that was made is that State Route 35 could be used as frontage, but that just doesn't fit the definition of frontage. It needs to be accessible from the public right of way.
Yeah, we're not putting an exit.
Yeah. Unless somebody wants to pay for it and put it up there. I've driven that road many a time. There's an exit coming up, so I don't know if that'd be a good idea.
All right.
Mr. Lynch?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Muncy, do you clarify one or 2 points?
Sure.
Della Kesterkey filed an appeal that went to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Board of Zoning Appeals agreed that the lot lacked sufficient frontage. So developer refiles his plan with the board, with the planning commission, and he extends the street, if my recollection is correct, by 10 feet. He had 60, add 10 on each side of the street, you're at 80. And just so that nobody gets, and I'm not arguing, don't interpret a whole lot by what I have planned. It's 72 or 74 apartments. And a little bit of refresher. Originally, this lot was zoned commercial. And if you look at the minutes of the Planning Commission and the council minutes, in fact, it mentions Dr. Metzger specifically. The neighborhood is concerned about this commercial zoning and what could happen to it. Not valid concern. So they have discussion with city. The city goes and talks to, it would have been Ron Rivers at the time. Because where Della's house is now didn't exist at this point in time. This is speculation on my part, but I would imagine the conversation went something along the lines of, you have a single family development and there's this commercial piece of property and you got some residents concerned about it. It's probably in your best interest if it wasn't zoned commercial. The property owner probably concluded that, yeah, they're probably right, but if I'm going to give up commercial zoning, I want the highest density zoning I can get, hence R3. At the time, it appears that neighborhood, city, and planning commission were all in happy agreement, we have resolved the problem. And it remained zoned R3 for, well, still zoned at R3 right now, for more than 22 years, something like that?
22 years.
Okay.
20, actually more than that.
24.
24. So that's your history of, and until Bishop's purchased it, no one actually seriously attempted to develop it. But it changed hands several times in its existence back there.
Mr. Fitstick, would you like to add something?
I would strongly urge that if council wants to talk about this, that we don't talk about it in open forum. This is a legal matter. There are rights in both parties that we have to be very careful of. I disagree with Mr. Muncy on several issues, which I'm not going to get into in front of council. This is the first time, today is the first contact that I've had with any of these matters. So I ask council to be very, very careful on how it proceeds with reference to any of the requested ordinances or resolutions that are requested by Mr. Muncy. So we have a chance to discuss the legal consequences of what the city may be liable for and how we can mitigate that liability. That's what I'm asking. So tonight's not the night. We don't want to just arbitrarily go out here and start making decisions and saying we're going to write a resolution or we're going to write an ordinance without first discussing it very carefully. Because we have a planning commission meeting scheduled. And planning commission ultimately is the people or the organization that's going to have to determine whether or not any of this takes place. Not just council. Council can't come in here and just say, you're going to take somebody's rights away. Mr. Bishop bought this property with an R3 designation. He expected an R3 designation. We can't, council does not have the right to go in here and with ordinance and automatically change, by caveat, change the zoning of this law. We can't do it. So we need to talk, we need to be very careful about how we proceed, because there, again, we have conflicting rights and responsibilities here.
Mr. Lynch, with Mr. Pitstick's permission, it's not used very often because we typically refer things to a standing committee kind of categorized. You do have committee of the whole, which basically means that council as the entire body will serve as a committee where they can discuss the matter, and then essentially you bring it back to a meeting. That might be a device that gives you a way to think about it. You got a lot of emotions on all sides of this one. So I would caution about, even sometimes when you very carefully choose your words, they can get people, wound pretty tight. And committee of the whole might be a way for you to address the issue that you gotta talk about what you've been given, but you need some time to digest that. And Mark, do you have any other observations?
I think you're absolutely right.
Certainly not insensitive to that issue. I think, our concern is the speed at which it's, if we weren't concerned that this could be something that could quickly come out of our hands, I wouldn't be here. So that's why we're here. Obviously, I don't disagree with anything that Mr. Pitstick said or Mr. Denon said. There's definitely some disputes here as to what rights and obligations everybody has. So it's part of the reason why we proposed the moratorium, just as a potential vehicle to pump the brakes. Obviously we've got another meeting coming up. I got another opportunity to slow the train down there. Could be successful, could be unsuccessful, but this is our best shot right now. That's it.
If we have a committee of the whole, I assume, obviously, since we're all here, that must be a public meeting. I've been to the last planning and zoning committee meetings. How would you describe it? This room isn't big enough to hold the number of people. Matter of fact, I had to stand out in the hall because there weren't enough seats.
This would have to be an executive session to discuss.
Okay, that was where I was getting to.
Well,
Can that, Mark, be an executive session?
Yes, it can be an executive session. We're going to talk about some legal issues that we have to deal with. Absolutely.
Okay, that was where I was getting. Because if we have an open meeting, it's going to just be exactly like the zoning and planning meetings were going to be. There would be as many people here. Matter of fact, it was recommended, I think probably properly, it should be in another facility where there's more seats because people couldn't hear and all those kind of things. But anyway, if it can be an executive session where we can have discussion without having people. And so, and I'm in a terrible situation here, and I've said this before. I don't even know if I could vote on this issue. I live on Farmington Lane. And I have all kinds of feelings about this issue. So anyway, I would prefer, as a resident of Farmington Lane, as well as a member of this council, to be able to talk without having my neighbors throw things at me if I say something they don't like, understandably. And it's not that I'm afraid to vote or do something, but at the same time, I think it would be a whole lot easier to discuss the issue and come up with some sort of reasonable plan, if it could be an I just wasn't sure if that was a reason you could have executive session.
Mr. Lynch, a point of clarification with Mr. Pitstick. He is suggesting that you would use an executive session to discuss the legal liabilities of the city if you adopted certain courses of action.
Yes.
But you're not suggesting that the entire process is a closed meeting, because, there's certain aspects of it that are not gonna fit into.
Well, we can't vote on
We're not-
anything in
we're not
executive
gonna-
session.
There's not gonna be any voting going on.
Yeah.
No, it's just executive meeting, and I think that's where we need to be at.
Anyway.
Parties
As long
would
as you
be,
follow the sunshine law.
We understand all that.
Obviously.
Yeah.
yeah, what parties would be present, Mr. Chairman, at that executive meeting? With their attorney?
No.
No, just us.
If you, here's what I wanna make a emphasize. If council wants to have Mr. Muncy outside, as you discuss things, you can have Mr. Muncy outside. That's entirely up to you. If you don't want me in here, that's fine, but you're gonna have some legal basis for setting this up. But you decide who's going to be here. It's entirely up to the council and the chairperson. So, that's entirely up to you guys.
And again, Mr. Muncy, I appreciate your coming in. I understand what's going on. But as somebody said, just getting this tonight, I can't deal with this like that. It's too big of an issue,
I
and
understand.
so I don't have any inclination to ask if we want to put in some resolution that delays everything. We just can't do that. I don't think.
In fairness, I don't think he was asking for something tonight. I think he was asking for just consideration. Is that right?
Exactly.
And I want to go back to something, and I'm just asking questions here. So that's my coverage for Mr. Pitstick's concerns. I'm just asking questions,
Certainly.
not making statements. The variance process, who grants the variance of someone?
The Board of Zoning Appeals, I believe the Board of Zoning Appeals makes a recommendation to council, and then council has to approve, if I'm not mistaken.
Council
am I
does
just-
that.
No, just the
No.
Board of Zoning Appeals
No.
then.
Just the Board of Zoning Appeals makes the decision and that's it.
Okay. So, in theory, council could do nothing, and the Board of Zoning Appeals could do nothing. And Mr. Bishop, if he were not able to get a variance, would have a property that couldn't be developed.
That's my interpretation. Obviously, there's gonna be conflicting positions.
That is not correct. It is
I
not.
think we should stop the discussion now and go into have executive session before we discuss this any further. I just think we're getting into
I was
areas.
just asking questions.
Well, yeah, but it's more of an interrogation, I think. I would say that we need to be in executive session to discuss some of this. Then you can bring it up, and I'd like to have Mr. Pitstick there, yes.
I don't want to go into executive session right now.
No, not tonight. I'm not talking about
Okay.
tonight. No.
I think the legal issues that are present here, almost, I would certainly agree. If I were in your shoes, I'd want to have executive
Mhm.
session with the council as well.
Mhm.
And, if there's questions that you want to ask me, you got my number.
Mr. Lynch, if you wanted to refer it to committee of the whole, then it would be all the typical motion second vote.
Mhm.
Everybody understand? Because I can't make motions, so if somebody want to make a motion, and do we need to have a time set to that, or can we discuss that?
What we'll do is that we'll try to coordinate everybody's schedule in the normal fashion and get a
Okay.
date that works for everybody. And, we'll communicate to the planning commission what this side is doing.
Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion to have a committee of the whole?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
There you go.
Okay, everybody understands. Any other discussion about having the committee, not that issue, but having the committee?
Yeah.
Roll call, Kelly.
Okay. Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Okay, we have set that up. I know it may not be as quick as you
We will
like,
let you
but.
know
Good.
the time that we're going to have this, okay? But again, it's gonna be an executive session. If you want to explain that to your clients, that's great.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh. Okay. Mr. Director of Finance, were you done, Joe, by the way? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, were you done? with your-
Oh, yeah, I'm done.
Mr. Director of Finance. Mr. City Attorney.
I have no report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, on our list of people wanting to speak tonight is Della. Do you want to speak, Della?
I don't think I need to, just one thing.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. You signed up.
Okay.
You know the
My name is
routine.
Della Kesterkey, 1311 Farmington Lane. I want to thank you all for letting me speak tonight. I do want to, I understand all about the executive session, and I do understand that. I do get that. I would like to very much have my attorney be part of that, if that's possible. I don't know if it is or isn't, I'm just requesting that. Also too, definitely, if it need be, the developer's attorney as well. I get that. But I want to make sure that you all understand the picture and the layout. And I think without the attorneys, I don't know that you're gonna get a fair picture and an overall. And, Mr. Lynch, I do feel really bad for you. You are between a rock and a hard place.
I am.
You certainly are, and because of that is why I've not ever approached you.
You have not, I agree.
And I still will not, but I do want you to know, my heart is with you. I understand completely. I do understand. So,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Remington asked to speak.
Sean Remington, Remington Electric. I always do that. Used to answer my phone that way a lot. Sean Remington, 3857. I came to speak to council again about the conversation we had last week about the yard signs and the ordinances. The sound didn't record. That's an issue. It's happened a couple times. And there was a report in the paper about it. It didn't fully. I wasn't saying that I felt that there shouldn't be any ban. It could be anything. That I felt that it should be 45 days. I said the Supreme Court ruling and the Ohio Supreme Court ruling saying you cannot ban it on content and you cannot ban it, you can't have a 45-day ban. So I just want to make that clear. And it seemed like council was receptive to that and all agreed and said that they were going to repeal that part. I didn't see that part in the paper. So I was just checking in to see where we are at. Is that still in conversation? Is that still happening?
I don't know about that, but what I can
Yeah.
tell you is I wasn't here at the last one.
Oh, I wasn't just.
But, no, you're entirely right. there is very clear Supreme Court language talking about how, you know, this is not a time, place, manner restriction. It is content-based, and thus the time limit is actually unconstitutional. And that's just how it is. That's just the law of the land. And so any enforcement of that, I can't imagine we would enforce it. It should be repealed because we have no plans to enforce it, in my opinion. And yeah, I think it was a great issue to bring up, so I really missed out on the opportunity to be here last time.
I think that was our discussion, that we should remove it.
It was. Mark has drafted a draft ordinance that is, well, I mean, you could just simply repeal the ordinance that's there. Mark has a draft ordinance that, oh, it repeals like the 45-day restriction, but there is some issue like in the right of way and that type of
You gotta be protective of political
Right.
signs with reference to right of way. You can't have something that flashes. You can't have, there's other things in size. So, you know, I did draft, I have a draft ordinance prepared that would amend the current ordinance to reflect that. And we were not, the only thing we're doing is restricting the size and place where they can be put.
But that's any sign, not political. Any sign. Remington Electric can't have
Correct.
that.
On poles.
The only thing I'm saying to you, and I wanna make sure you understand, the only thing that restrictions are the square footage.
Yeah.
You can't have them too big because people have to see down the roadways.
Mhm.
You can't have them in the right of way.
Yeah.
And you can't have them flashing, because flashing signs will cause people to veer off in their sight and hit another car. So those things were put into the amendment. That's what's been done. As far as political signs, it's not the issue.
Excellent.
What about the time limit after the election?
The time limit was, I stretched it to 7 days for people to get it out of their yard after the election.
Yes.
Now, that's entirely up to you guys.
No,
what
I
you
think
decide.
that's good. No, that's fine. That's
I
fine.
went from 48 hours to 7 days.
It's fine if it's legal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't enforce getting rid of it. They could have a political sign all year long.
Yeah, I
That's
just
what
don't
I'm
want a
saying.
sign
Right.
after the
Seen
election
that.
still laying in
Right.
somebody's
Right.
yard,
Yeah.
blowing around.
But-
We've seen that, not even with the local stuff, and this is
Yes.
a issue that, I mean, really, the presidential election of 2020, 2016, really it blew up. People were 24/7 putting signs about Trump or Biden in their yards, non-election years.
Yes.
You know, it was,
crazy.
yes.
I can't have that, I agree with
Well, I mean, and that's protected speech, protected speech, and so, yeah.
Not to answer your question, yeah, we're working on that.
you. Working on it.
So to that point, yeah, and I agreed with the, so you can't restrict it in public or private buildings, public property, but, out in the, out by the roads, out in the, public property, will you be moving it from there?
Oh, are you asking about the things that could potentially
Yeah,
block?
any signs that are out and not deemed the proper areas, will
Yeah,
those
'cause
be
this
removed?
opens up a can of worms about all kinds of stuff.
And again, we haven't amended anything yet. We haven't discussed anything, but what I'm simply saying is, if it endangers the public safety, then there will be action taken against the sign. So
Oh, no, I
that's
actually.
all I'm saying.
I actually think that's a good idea. I was just trying to see even playing, like, so if people are putting their political signs right up against the road or not in private property, the city's gonna actively remove those signs.
Yep.
We probably will go up and ask them to move the sign back a little bit. We probably won't go out and just take the sign.
Well, some signs are just on the side of the road in random places. So that's what I was referring to.
Some people will fix them to telephone poles, some
Yeah.
people have been doing all sorts of crazy
Yeah,
things, yes.
they've just been sticking them anywhere.
Yeah,
Those signs we regularly collect now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of times with political signage in deference to people wanting to express themselves, most of the time, it gets moved around, you don't have to worry about it right now, when they mow grass. And they've moved it out of their way to mow grass, and then, oh, they've forgotten about it, or they're just tired from mowing grass and don't want to fool with it anymore. In a lot of cases, we've just moved them out of the right of way and put it back on the lawn where they belong.
That did answer my question, but I did want to follow up on the issue. Why I felt like I had to talk again, because I think this makes the third time where there's an audio issue, and I had said that that technology is so affordable now. I mean, every new smartphone, your recording app live dictates in real time, and council for an investment of $1,500 could have very clear audio. It would be able to, there's for hearing impaired people, I've brought here people before that have hearing aids and they're like, I can't hear anything that's being said. It can be Bluetooth to their earbuds. The council meeting should be able to see in real time live translation. It could be an asset for Kelly. She could be able to look at everything and have everything printed out. She should be the overseer of that. So it would be an affordable tool that the city should invest in for these meetings. So that was one thing. And like, you know, when I first brought people to council 2 years ago about this trail meeting, I brought 17 people and there was an accident with the video. I just wanted to confirm that, and Ted, you're chairman of that Parks and Recs. Has the Parks Department had anything to do with the trail from Kroger's to the park?
Well, we have a park district that independent, isn't it?
Yes, but
Yes.
I'm under the impression, talking to some of them, that no, every single bit of this trail was done by the city of Washington Courthouse, by the lobbying of me and other residents of coming to council and speaking.
Yeah, we designed that and we built it.
Yes, 100%. So that was another thing, because that meeting was a thing, and the Parks Department, after we did that, I've been on this for 3 years, 2 years, not missing one council meeting. After that was done, the Parks Department took a picture in front of it, said, we got that done with the city's help, taking full credit of it, and the paper put that Facebook post in there as an article, and I was just saying that is, it's very misleading, and for the people that put a lot of effort. I mean, I probably have 38-hour days invested over 2 years, if you can imagine, to say, when the Parks Department, even I've talked to someone on the Parks Department, I was told that the signs, directional, were paid by the Parks Department. He said, I'm unaware of anything we paid for that. And then I was saying too is that, we're very happy with that. Again, this was all about public safety. This wasn't about, obsessing about bike riding. It was just a major issue. I said, some kid's gonna get hit and killed. But when we come up to West Temple, all the signs tell you to go to court, back to town. So it's like you leave Kroger's, you come behind, you come up to West Temple, and the sign tells you to take a left to go back to downtown. It's like the sign should say, hey, take a right here to the park. You should get up to the race tracks and say, take another right here to the park. There should be directionals. I didn't understand telling people to take two going up and down that road and not pointing like, hey, you need to get off the road immediately and get behind the trail that's put right across Cherry Hill School. So a lot of people have said to me they're very confused by it. Some people even think that going across the Wood Bridge is the path, and they get confused on that. And so I really feel that we need clear directional maps. We should also be able to have the city should have along the trail a placard of its trail system. I mean, there's a lot of people that go on the different parts of the trail, and it's an asset for this community. So I just wanted to leave that, but I probably wouldn't have spoke if I know there was other people that kind of already planned on talking. I wanted to keep it going while the second meeting, so I'll cut it short, and thank you for your time, council.
Thanks, Sean.
Sean, I agree with you on one thing. We need to upgrade our system so it comes out better.
Well, Mark Pitstick is the technological bug.
I do it all.
Well, they just keep laying it in your lap, don't they, Mark?
And I think there are times when we could use a sound system. The planning commission meeting the other night, people could not hear what was being said. I could hear a teeny bit out in the hallway, but not much. So we may need to come up with some sort of a microphone system that would help. But anyway, I agree with you on that also. We need to upgrade
We'll
that.
get it done, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. I don't know, where are we? Oh, we're on legislation.
Now we're getting there.
There we go.
We're getting there.
We're on legislation previously introduced, ordinance number 31, 2024, third reading.
I'll move we put ordinance 31, 2024 on third reading.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Chrisman.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Ordinance number 31-2024, an ordinance amending codified ordinance 150.006, building maintenance code for the downtown historical business district.
Move for passage.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Chrisman.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Ordinance number 32, 2024, third reading.
I'll move we put ordinance 32, 2024 on third reading.
Second.
Discussion.
Briefly,
Yes, sir.
I believe that it is highly, highly trashy whenever someone parks a vehicle on their front yard in disregard of what it looks like with the whole, across the whole neighborhood. I believe there are plenty of ways that people have been bad neighbors. But being a trashy bad neighbor does not mean that if you park your vehicle in the front yard, you should be subject to jail, that you should be subject to incarceration for up to 30 days. I'm a firm believer that, well, frankly, whenever you park on a roadway and it's wrong and you park somewhere you shouldn't park, you get a parking ticket, you don't go to jail. If you park on your own yard, you can go to jail. That doesn't make sense to me. So if it were a minor misdemeanor where no jail time was possible, I would absolutely vote yes. But as it is, since this is an M4, subjecting people to 30 days of incarceration, I have to vote no. So I will vote no. Thank you.
Anybody else? Roll call.
Blair.
No.
Chrisman.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yes.
Johnson.
No.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Ordinance number 32-2024, an ordinance prohibiting parking motor vehicles on lawns.
Move for passage.
I'll second that.
Mr. Lynch,
Yes.
an observation.
Okay.
Earlier in the evening, you had a similar debate when it concerned fireworks, and you arrived at the conclusion that the first offense would be a minor misdemeanor and the second one would be an M4.
I did compromise.
Okay, since we're talking, I don't even know if we can at this point.
That's not what it's about.
There's nothing that says if a person parks on their lot and you go out and ticket them, that they're gonna be thrown in jail for 30 days. Now, maybe if they do it 25 times in a row, they might get thrown in jail for 25 days.
Yes, that's how I
Or
would
30
go.
days. I mean, nothing says that has to be the penalty. It's like cleaning up trash. If you're told to clean up trash and you don't after a long time, yeah, you may end up in jail. And you should. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you suggesting we change this?
I just wanted to point out that you had a similar debate earlier in the day.
And yes, and you throw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. And, okay. I think we're ready for a passage
Yes,
vote.
for passage.
So
I thought we just had it.
No, we had a first reading, this is the
Yeah.
Oh, this is the
That's
third.
third.
Okay, wait a minute.
Roll
Go
call,
ahead.
please.
This is third reading.
Third reading, this is passage, on the passage.
Yes.
Okay, Blair,
No.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Ordinance number 33, 2024, second reading.
Move we put ordinance 33, 2024 on second reading.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Ordinance number 33-2024, amending ordinance number 12-2023 by providing supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Washington Courthouse, Fayette County, Ohio, during fiscal year ending December 31st, 2024.
Resolution number R27, 2024, second reading.
I'll move we, I'll move that we put resolution R 27, 2024 on second reading.
Discussion. Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R27-2024, a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a master tax exempt lease purchase agreement with Johnson Emergency Vehicle Solutions for a lease purchase agreement for a 2024 Spartan Gladiator Star Pumper Tanker.
Move for adoption.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Resolution number R28, 2024, second reading.
I'll make the motion to place R 28, 2024 second reading. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R28-2024, a resolution eliminating current administrators and establishing new administrators for the 457 Deferred Compensation Plan for the Ohio Association of Professional Firefighters.
Move for adoption. Second.
Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes. Resolution number R29, 2024, second reading.
I'll make the motion to place R 29, 2024 second reading. Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R29-2024, a resolution authorizing Joseph J. Denon, City Manager, and Mr. Ron Stockman, Finance Director of the City of Washington Courthouse, to authorize the execution of financing arrangements with U.S. Bank for the purchase of a Vector combination sewer and vacuum truck for the Service Department.
Move for adoption.
I'll second that.
Roll call.
Yes.
Jump in there, Jim.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Thank you.
You gotta memorize. New legislation in writing, resolution number R30, 2024, first reading.
I'll move we put resolution R30, 2024 on first reading.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Blair,
Yes.
Chrisman,
Yes.
Hawk,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes.
Resolution number R30-2024, a resolution accepting the amount and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
Kelly, either you had memorized all those or you read pretty well without your glasses.
I read pretty well without my glasses. Struggling.
Struggling.
Doesn't make any difference. Mr. Johnson, what do you have this evening?
Well, I just want to thank everyone who came out. I think we had a lot of very nice discussions, and No statements were made, only questions asked. Yeah, so thank you.
Mr. Blair.
I would like to commend the street department, after the big wind came through Friday night, wasn't it? I took my dog over to the cemetery, and we always walk back the trail, and huge tree had fallen over the trail there by where the bench is. And I just took a picture of it and texted it to Gary Dean, and went back 2 days later, it was all cleaned up. The tree was gone, everything was taken care of, and it was a very positive thing that I seen from our street department. I just wanted to let them know.
Okay. Mr. Schultz?
You know, the same thing with Mr. Blair. I called today, there was some brush in our neighborhood that had been laying around, and it wasn't less than an hour, and they were out there cleaning it up, so I think that was fantastic. I told Mr. Dean tonight, I thanked him for that, doing that quickly. They didn't only get the brush from my neighborhood, they went up and down the alley and got everybody some brush at one time, so that was very good. And the other thing, we've had a lot of discussion tonight, a lot of things for us to think about, which we want to thank everybody for bringing all this to our attention, and then we'll go from there and act on it. The other thing, a lot of electronics, and we all have electronics, and things are going on all the time. I had my email hacked, and I've had to change the dog's name 3 times now.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Hawk, what do you got?
Well, for whatever it's worth, we've talked a lot about rights tonight, and sometimes I think rights are almost a necessary evil. I agree with having rights and that we should stand by them and protect rights. But when we had a 45-day agreement to not put signs out before that time and to take them down 3 days after the election, I guess you could call that a gentleman's agreement, because sometimes by having individual rights, you infringe on the public as a whole. And it is a nuisance to have signs in perpetuity all the time. It's clutter and so on, and I've put my signs out in the past, and but I try to do it by the ordinance that we had. But I think I think just a gentleman's agreement sometimes is good too. And we kind of had that understanding that those signs would be 45 days before the election. Of course, that was before, we haven't been doing early voting for that long either, so now the question is, what's 45 days? So, of course, it's all a moot point now, but sometimes we do things in a society just because we're trying to accommodate each other and be courteous to each other. So that's kind of in defense of what we had in the past. I think it was a good thing. Whether it was right or not, I guess I can't speak to that. And I agree that we have our rights and the constitutional rights, and we should go by it and give people the freedom to do what they want. But I'm just rambling now, so I think I made my point.
That'd be full.
Mr. Chrisman?
Okay, this is my 29th year, and I would like to thank all city departments because they do an excellent job. We have excellent city employees. Last week was a good example with all that, the trees down and all that stuff. So every department and all of our employees are courteous, they help people. I'm sure there'll be sometimes you get them on a bad day, but I haven't seen it, so I won't comment too much on that. Oh, Kelly always has good days. Always has a smile.
How you fool. I'm just kidding.
Now, can I assume that the 45-day deal is done? We don't enforce that?
We haven't for a long time.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked, Mr. Fleet put a sign in my yard today, and I just want to make sure he wasn't illegal. I'd have to go move it. That's me, Roxbury, yards can't drive in the yard anyway.
I don't know how he got the sign in your yard, I've tried that before.
He got it in, he got about this far in. Last year, that's when I ran, I carried the rubber mallet with me to drive him into the ground.
So hard.
Of course, I'm old and I'm weak. That's all I have. Thanks for coming, folks. It was an interesting evening. We learned a few things, and
Yep.
we'll have an executive and see where we go from there. Thank you very much for coming.
Well, Mr. Hawk, with your rambling, I want to say, the reason I agreed with Sean about signs isn't because I agree about signs. It's because the Supreme Court said that's what you got to do. 45 days was plenty. I said, in 2016, things changed. In my opinion, not for the better. It's interesting in our society today. If you want something, then I want the right to do it. If you don't want something, then you don't have the right to do it. 45 days was plenty. Signs that didn't have profanity on them were great. But where are we now? So I don't agree with the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court said it, so that's what we'll do. I do agree that you got to do what they say. One of the toughest things for people is to understand that when you're in a leadership role, I don't care whether it's a boss of a business, school principal, superintendent, in my case, athletic director, you're going to make some decisions that people don't like. And it's interesting, I found just today a quote by Aristotle. It says, if to avoid criticism, do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. If you want to be on city council, commissioner, whatever, you better be prepared to make some decisions that people aren't going to like. There are people, if we put in rules about fireworks, that aren't going to like it. So I can sit back and say, well, I don't want to make any decisions here because somebody's not going to like it. Do nothing, say nothing, be nothing. If you run for council, you better be ready to take criticism, because you will get it. And the best advice I ever got was when I became athletic director, and I was told, if you're going to try to make everybody happy, don't do it. Don't do the job. And I would say the same thing to anybody running for political office. I can't imagine running for president of the United States. Oh my gosh. Anyway, you guys, thanks. Mr. Muncy, thank you. I appreciate it. We're going to get together and discuss it. I don't know whether it'll be what people want or whether, but we're going to get together and discuss it. And nobody has been more faithful than Kester Keys and coming here. Well, Sean's been faithful. But anyway, I understand. I do. But we're going to have to make a decision, and somebody's not going to be happy. So anyway, I need a, well, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it. There we go.
Roll call.
Blair.
Yes.
Chrisman.
Yes.
Hawk.
Yeah.
Johnson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Lynch.
Yes, we are adjourned at 8:43. By that clock.